On the night of our wedding, friends came over for the traditional party games. The very first round called for the bride and groom to kiss for 3 minutes. But my wife, Lauren Sanchez, grabbed her secretary by the collar and kissed him. Without a second's hesitation, the two of them locked lips for a full 3 minutes. When they finally pulled apart, thin string of saliva still connected their mouths. The smiles around the room froze. Every pair of eyes shifted to me. Stiff with secondhand embarrassment, Lauren Sanchez wiped the moisture from the corner of Noel Cobb's mouth with her thumb, utterly unbothered. Noel's so shy he'd never survive a situation like this on his own, so I figured I'd help him get some practice early. She tossed a stack of cash onto the table in front of me. $20,000. That enough? Take the money and settle down. Don't act like you've been gravely wronged. It was just a game I went through with the whole wedding for you. You should be grateful. Noah blushed and wrapped his arm around her waist, gazing up at her with open adoration. I nodded calmly, slipped off my wedding ring, and dropped it onto the pile of bills. Miss Sanchez is joking. Of course. I'm not upset at all. After all, I've been planning to find a new partner, to file a marriage certificate with myself. Silence, the kind where you could hear a pin drop. Lauren smashed the ashtray beside her against the table. Her expression darkened like a storm rolling in. Lauren Henson, it was just a game. Do you really have to be this petty about it? Fine, fine. Here's another 10,000. Take back what you just said and stop ruining the mood for everyone. She spoke as though scolding a child who didn't know any better. Looking at that face, the one that once made my heart race, all I felt now was revulsion. I think I made myself perfectly clear. We never filed the paperwork. Anyway, we're done. Oh. And consider tonight's wedding my gift to you, Miss Sanchez. A little practice run for the real thing. No need to thank me. The temperature in the room plummeted. Noel suddenly hooked his arm through mine. All smiles. Lawrence, don't be mad. Lauren was just worried I wouldn't know what to do at my own wedding. Someday. She was giving me a head start. That's all. Tell you what. For the next game, I'll let you have the groom's spot. I frowned at word let, but deeper than any insult. Before I could agree or refuse, Noah was already reaching into the game box. He pulled out a slip of paper and read it aloud. The groom must kneel before the bride and bark like a dog 10 times to demonstrate his absolute loyalty to his wife. The others exchanged uneasy glances and began whispering among themselves. Didn't we agree not to put anything degrading in there? Who wrote this? Not me. Me neither. Noah shot them a reproachful look. What are you all going on about? I think it's degrading, but maybe Lawrence here would consider it a reward. After all, a kept man like him, a pretty face, living off a woman's money, loves groveling to keep his meal ticket happy. He let out a theatrical sigh. Me? I could never. Too much self-respect. He turned to me, a taunting grin spreading across his face. Lawrence, didn't you want to play games with Lauren? Then go ahead and bark. Who knows? Maybe she'll be so pleased she'll toss you another 20 grand. Opportunity of a lifetime. Lauren heard every word. She didn't react. My gaze drifted past her to the crimson wedding quilt beneath her, the one I'd chosen with such care. I hadn't even sat on it yet, but their kiss had already creased and rumpled it. Tradition held that the newlyweds should be the first to sit on the wedding quilt, a symbol of a happy marriage. Just days ago, I'd been looking forward to this night. I'd imagined Lauren and me sitting on that quilt together, planning a future full of promise. Now there was no need for any of that. I shoved Noel's arm away, cold and unhurried, and let a mocking smile settle on my lips. Mr. Cobb, you're too modest. The way you were flapping that tongue of yours just now. You've got any dog beat when it comes to licking. Doesn't look like you need the practice at all. You're so good at playing the lapdog. Why don't you bark a few times so I can learn from the best? I'd grown up, surrounded by the works of master calligraphers and painters. I'd recognized Noel's handwriting on that slip of paper the moment I saw it. Noel's face flushed crimson, his voice dripping with wounded innocence. Sanchez, how could he humiliate me like this? A glass of red wine splashed over my head. Without warning, Lauren yanked Noel into her arms, protectively glaring at me with open contempt. Lawrence, enough. You won't do this. You won't do that. All you're good for is bullying someone younger than you. There's a limit to how unreasonable you can be. You're a part-time calligraphy teacher making pocket change. Your salary is so pathetic I'd be embarrassed to use it for gas money. You only live the life you do because of me. Where do you get off thinking you can tell me what to do? A sneer curled at the corner of her mouth. Noel actually helps me carry the load at the company. Forget swapping him into a party game. If he wanted the moon, I'd pluck it from the sky for him. And what can you do for me? You wormed your way into a wedding with me, without so much as a decent betrothal gift. You're nothing but a freeloader trying to cash in, so, Lawrence, take the money and sit down. If it's not enough, I'll give you more. But if you keep making trouble, I won't go through with the marriage license, period. My chest ached tight and suffocating. So refusing to accept my wife kissing another man was making trouble. 5 years of devotion, of building her empire beside her from nothing, amounted to freeloading. But Lauren didn't know the betrothal gift had been ready for months. The assets were so expensive that cataloging everything had taken time. I'd planned to present it all the day we signed the marriage license. As a surprise. Now I saw she didn't deserve it. Well, that works out perfectly. I was thinking the same thing. My voice came out cold and flat. I turned, grabbed my coat, and headed for the door. The moment I pulled open the villa's front door, a voice rang out behind me. Hold on. Lauren descended the staircase, chin tilted up, wearing a smile that wasn't really a smile. Lawrence, that Canada Goose parka you're wearing. $100,000, I paid for it. If you've got the nerve to talk about breaking up, then don't walk out in my things. Or can you not afford to dress yourself? Oh, and don't forget to leave every card I ever gave you. The front door gaped wide open. Frigid wind laced with snowflakes bit into my neck, but it wasn't half as cold as what I felt inside last winter. Right when the cold set in, he'd complained that the jackets I bought were cheap, brands that couldn't keep me warm. She'd thrown them all out without asking. The next day, she handed me a Canada Goose parka and told me that things were better now, that she'd never let me freeze again. Lauren knew all of this perfectly well. She was doing it to humiliate me on purpose. In that moment, regret hit me like a wall. Regret for misjudging who she really was all those years ago. One of the guests stepped in, trying to smooth things over. Lauren, it's below zero out there. Lawrence is barely wearing anything underneath. Without that coat, he'll freeze. It's supposed to be a happy occasion. Don't let it end on a sour note. Just swallow your pride and make up with your husband. There's no shame in that. Lauren, of course, saw it differently. Her lips twisted into a mocking smirk. Haven't even signed the papers. What kind of husband is he? I spoiled him too much. That's all. He thinks he can throw around words like break up whenever he pleases. He should be grateful I'm not making him walk out naked. Lawrence, don't say I never gave you a chance. Apologize right now. Promise to get along with Noel from here on out. I'll forgive you. We'll sign the license like planned. And you'll still be the man of the Sanchez household. Noel settled in close beside her. All smiles. That's right, Lawrence. You already lowered yourself to being a kept man. What's with the pride? All of a sudden? I'd quit while I was ahead, if I were you. It's 2 a.m. in weather like this. There's not a cab to be found out here. And the nearest hotel is miles away. You'll freeze to death on the side of the road. The moment the words left her mouth, Lawrence seemed to get an idea. She picked up her phone and dialed. Call every hotel and motel in Capital City. Lawrence Henson is not to be given a room anywhere. My heart plummeted. This was Lauren's obedience test. She wanted me to understand that she could dictate my life on a whim. She was training me to be docile, to swallow my pride and submit. I drew a long breath, then slapped the bank cards down on the coffee table. Without a second's hesitation, I pulled off the Canada Goose parka and tossed it into the fireplace beside me. The flame surged, casting a bright glow across Lauren's stunned face. I turned and walked straight into the blizzard without looking back. The wind cut through me like a blade. Every step was a battle, my whole body shaking so violently my teeth rattled. I kept going until I found an internet cafe that was still open, and begged the owner for a cup of hot water. Only after I drank it did the feeling start returning to my fingers. But within minutes, my eyelids grew impossibly heavy. I slumped forward and passed out. Somewhere in the haze, I felt hands on me. I forced my eyes open and found myself staring into the owner's greasy, bloated face. The cafe that had been buzzing with people just moments ago was completely empty now. Metal security shutter had been pulled down over the entrance. The owner leered at me. Hey there, pretty boy out here all alone this late at night. Nowhere to go, huh? Poor little thing. Let me take care of you. The water. He put something in the water. Terror crashed over me like a wave. I bit down on my tongue hard, forcing myself awake through the searing pain. I shoved him off me with everything I had, and bolted toward the bathroom in the corner, slamming the door shut and locking it behind me. I was about to call the police when Lauren's number flashed across the screen. 1% battery. I stared at it, then clenched my jaw and answered. The sound that came through was Lauren's breathless panting, thick with arousal. Lauren, where did you put those condoms? I brought back from overseas last month. I need to show Noel a thing or two about wedding night party games. Her tone turned mocking. What? Now that you know you can't survive without me, you went and stole them to sell? Is that how desperate you are? I choked down the nausea, clawing up my throat, and spoke as fast as I could. Lauren, I'm at an internet cafe on Guangzhou Road. The owner is trying to assault me.
Please come get me.
Lauren's voice went taut with alarm. What? I'm coming right now. Then the very next second, Noah's sneering laugh slithered through the speaker. Lawrence, buddy, are all kept men as calculating as you? I drove down that road just this afternoon. There's no internet cafe there. You're just pulling a sob story to guilt Miss Sanchez into caving. First, aren't you, Miss Sanchez? If you actually go, you'll only be rewarding his tantrums. Once you two are officially married, he'll threaten divorce every time he doesn't get his way. How embarrassing would that be? Before I could get a word in, Lauren exploded. Lawrence, you are absolutely shameless you'd stoop to a lie like that. Don't think for a second I'm going to coddle you this time. You want to come back? Fine. Tomorrow morning, you get on your knees in front of my office and tell me you were wrong. Without me, that pathetic little salary of yours couldn't even cover rent on a decent apartment. You try to sell yourself on the street, and people would turn you down for the lousy accommodations. Go sit somewhere and think about that. The line went dead. A heartbeat later, the screen went black. Something inside me died with it. Click. The bathroom lock turned from the outside the cafe. Owner barged in, grabbed a fistful of my hair, and grinned. Where do you think you're going, pretty boy? This is my turf. You think I don't have the key to my own damn bathroom? Trying to call your little girlfriend for help? I heard every word. She's too busy letting some other guy use those condoms to bother with you. Now be a good boy and take care of me. Don't worry, I'm not high maintenance. I never bother with protection. Ha ha ha. In the depths of my despair, a thunderous crash erupted from outside. The rolling shutter was forced open. The deafening screech of tearing metal drowned out the cafe owner's vile laughter. Before the greasy man could even pivot, the heavy steel security shutter didn't just open, it caved inward. A matte black armored SUV had rammed straight through the storefront, shattering the glass facade into a million glittering teeth. The cafe owner stumbled back, his face draining of color. What the hell? He didn't get to finish. Four men in tactical gear poured through the dust and
Debris.
They moved with terrifying, silent efficiency. 1 second the owner was reaching for a pipe, and the next a heavy combat boot swept his legs out from under him. A suppressed, sickening crunch echoed through the cramped space as his arm was pinned and broken. He was gagged before he could even scream. Through the swirling dust, a tall, impeccably dressed man in a tailored charcoal overcoat stepped into the ruined cafe. He ignored the whimpering owner entirely, his sharp eyes scanning the room until they landed on the bathroom door. Mr. Henson, the man called out, his voice smooth but laced with tight anxiety. Victor is here. You're safe. The bathroom door was kicked open. Victor rushed in, his immaculate coat brushing the filthy tiles as he knelt beside me. The room was spinning, the drug dragging me down into a dark, heavy ocean, but I recognized the silver crest of the Henson family pinned to Victor's lapel. The storm delayed the chopper, Victor muttered, his voice tightening with a rare flash of fury as he looked at my shivering, half-frozen state. He stripped off his heavy cashmere coat and draped it over my shoulders. I grabbed his wrist, my fingers blue and trembling. The water. We have paramedics outside. You've been drugged, sir. Let go now. I have you. My head fell back against his arm. Through the fading edge of my consciousness, I heard Victor deliver a cold, flat order to the men holding the cafe owner. Ensure he survives. But make sure he never walks, speaks, or breathes without a machine for the rest of his miserable life. Then, the darkness finally took me. When I opened my eyes again, the biting cold was gone. Instead of the freezing draft of a dingy bathroom, I was surrounded by the muted hum of a state-of-the-art medical suite. The faint scent of sandalwood and sterile alcohol hung in the air. Beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, the skyline of Capital City glittered under a crisp, sunlit morning. Welcome back, young master. I turned my head. An older man with silver hair, standing ramrod straight in a bespoke suit, was waiting by the foot of the bed. It was Elias, the head butler of the Henson estate. How long? My voice was a dry rasp. 3 days, Elias replied, pouring a glass of warm water. The toxin was potent, compounded by severe hypothermia. The doctors were quite concerned. But your constitution held. 3 days. I took the glass, the memories of the wedding night crashing back down on me like an avalanche. The kiss, the dog joke, the freezing snow,
The
mocking voice of the woman I had spent 5 years loving, protecting, and quietly elevating to the top of the business world. I had hidden my identity because I wanted to be loved for who I was, not for the endless billions attached to the Henson family name. I wanted to build something with my own hands alongside a partner I thought shared my vision.
What a
Monumental, pathetic joke I had played on myself. My phone,
I asked.
Elias stepped forward, presenting a sleek silver tray. On it rested my old phone, fully charged. It has been ringing ceaselessly for the past 48 hours, sir. I unlocked the screen. 73 missed calls. 142 text messages. Almost all from Lauren. I opened the texts. They chronicled a rapid, satisfying descent from arrogance to outright panic. Day 1, 9 a.m. Lawrence, stop throwing a tantrum. Get to my office.
Now.
Day 1, 1 p.m. Fine. You want to freeze?
Freeze.
Don't expect me to come looking for you. Day 2, 8 a.m. Lawrence, Vanguard Trust just pulled their funding. Did you forget to file the compliance paperwork last week?
Call me back.
Day 2, 3 p.m. Pick up the phone. All our suppliers are demanding immediate payment. What did you do with the accounts? Day 3, 10 a.m. Lawrence,
Please.
the board is threatening a vote of no confidence. I need the cipher keys.
For the offshore accounts.
Noel doesn't know how to access them. Where are you? I stare at the messages, a cold, hollow laugh escaping my chest. She thought I was just her obedient errand boy, a part-time calligraphy teacher who handled her tedious paperwork out of sheer devotion. She never realized that Vanguard Trust was my family's private equity firm. She never knew that the suppliers gave her infinite credit because my personal signature was the guarantor on her company's ledgers. For 5 years, I had been the invisible pillar holding up the glittering mansion of Sanchez Enterprises. And she thought it was her own genius and Noel's hard work that kept the lights on. Elias, I said, dropping the phone back onto the tray. Sir, initiate the betrothal gift protocol, but in reverse. Elias's eyes gleamed with a predatory satisfaction. Withdraw all capital from Sanchez Enterprises. Everything, I said, my voice as cold as the blizzard I had walked through. Call him loans. Trigger the penalty clauses on the supply chains. Liquidate the shadow shares we hold in her subsidiaries. And sever my guarantor status on her corporate credit lines. And the assets you prepared for the wedding? The ones currently held in escrow? Keep them under Henson Holdings. Send a legal team to her office today to officially notify her that the marriage contract and its associated transfer of wealth is permanently void. It will be done within the hour, Elias bowed. Shall I prepare a suit for you? The patriarch wishes to see you at the main estate.
Yes.
Burn the clothes I arrived in. I threw the covers off, my feet touching the warm hardwood floor. Lawrence the kept man was dead. He froze to death on Guangzhou Road. Across town, the top floor of Sanchez Enterprises was descending into absolute chaos. Lauren slammed her palms onto the mahogany boardroom table, her eyes bloodshot. What do you mean, they won't extend the credit line? We have a flawless repayment history. The chief financial officer, a balding man sweating through his collar, swallowed hard. Miss Sanchez, the bank stated that our guarantor has withdrawn his backing. Without him, our credit rating plummeted overnight.
We
Are heavily over-leveraged. Guarantor? What guarantor? Lauren shrieked. I built this company. The guarantor listed on the master ledger, ma'am. An entity known only as
LH.
Holdings. They've been covering our risk margins for 5 years.
They
Withdrew entirely 48 hours ago. Lauren's mind raced, but she couldn't connect the dots.
LH Holdings?
It had to be some faceless corporate angel investor. It couldn't possibly be related to the man she kicked out into the snow. Where is Noel? She demanded, rubbing her temples. The boardroom doors opened and Noel slipped in. He was wearing a brand new Prada suit, looking thoroughly out of place amidst the panic. He carried a cup of artisanal coffee. Lauren, darling, Noel said softly, walking up behind her to massage her shoulders. Don't stress yourself so much. The banks are just playing hardball. I'll call them after lunch. The CFO glared at him. Mr. Cobb, I asked you to compile the emergency liquidity reports yesterday. Noel scoffed, rolling his eyes. I was busy picking out the floral arrangements for the makeup wedding banquet. Wasn't I? Besides, that's Lawrence's job.
When?
Is that loser going to crawl back? It's been 3 days. Lauren flinched at the name. A sudden, uncomfortable pang hit her chest, but she quickly buried it in anger. He's trying to punish me, she thought. He's hiding out in some cheap motel just to watch me struggle. He thinks I'll beg. He'll be back, Lauren said coldly. He doesn't have a dime to his name without
Me.
his little calligraphy gig barely pays enough for groceries. Let him starve. Just then, her executive assistant burst into the room, looking terrified.
Miss.
Sanchez, there's a legal team from Sullivan and Cromwell in the lobby.
They
Bypassed security. They say they have an urgent mandate from the Henson estate. Lauren frowned. Sullivan and Cromwell was the most ruthless, expensive corporate law firm in the country. And the Henson estate? That was a mythic tier of wealth, the kind of old money that could buy and sell Sanchez Enterprises. Before breakfast. Send them in immediately. Lauren snapped, smoothing her skirt and pushing Noel's hands away. This could be a buyout offer. If the Hensons want to acquire us, this liquidity crisis is over. The boardroom doors swung open. 3 lawyers in immaculate suits walked in, their expressions carved from stone. The lead attorney, a sharp-featured woman named Ms. Vance, placed a thick black folder on the table. Lauren Sanchez? Ms. Vance asked, her tone devoid of any respect.
Yes.
I am the CEO, Lauren said, putting on her most charming smile. To what do I owe the pleasure of the Henson family's attention? Ms. Vance opened the folder. I am here executing the final will of the escrow trust created by our client, Mr. Lawrence Henson. The room went dead silent. Lauren blinked, her smile freezing.
I'm sorry.
Did you say Lawrence?
Yes.
Mr. Lawrence Henson, sole heir to the Henson Consortium, Ms. Vance said, smoothly, sliding a document across the table. We are here to formally deliver the notice of termination regarding the prenuptial asset transfer, colloquially referred to by Mr. Henson as his betrothal gift. Lauren stared at the paper. Her eyes couldn't comprehend the numbers printed on the page. 50% equity in the Vanguard Trust for commercial skyscrapers in the financial district, a private island in the Maldives, a cash reserve of $2 billion. All of it was listed under the betrothal gift. All of it was supposed to be transferred to her name the moment she and Lawrence signed the marriage certificate. Her heart stopped. The blood roared in her ears. This is a fake, Lauren stammered, her voice trembling. Lawrence is a part-time teacher. He wears cheap clothes. I bought him his winter coat.
He's a
nobody. Ms. Vance looked at her with an expression of profound pity mixed with disgust. Mr. Henson holds a PhD in economics from Cambridge. His calligraphy is a personal hobby, though I should remind you that under his pen name, LH, his last piece sold at Sotheby's for $8 million. He chose to live simply, while building your company from the shadows, ensuring you never felt inferior. Ms. Vance tapped the termination paper. The offer is rescinded. Furthermore, the $2 billion in shadow funding that Henson Holdings used to prop up Sanchez Enterprises has been recalled due to breach of contract. You have exactly 7 days to repay the principal, Miss Sanchez, before we seize your assets. Lauren's legs gave out. She collapsed into her leather chair, her face ashen. The betrothal gift. The one she had mocked him for not having. It was right here. It was an empire. You wormed your way into a wedding with me, without so much as a decent betrothal gift. Her own words echoed in her mind, a sickening loop that made her want to vomit. Wait. Noel suddenly stepped forward, his eyes wide with desperate greed as he stared at the zeros on the paper. If Lawrence is a billionaire, why didn't he say so? That's entrapment. He owes Lauren half of this for wasting 5 years of her life. Ms. Vance slowly turned her gaze to Noel, sizing him up like an insect on the pavement. You must be the secretary, Mr. Cobb, isn't it? Noel puffed out his chest. I'm the vice president of operations. According to our audit, MS. Vance corrected. You are an administrative assistant who has embezzled roughly $400,000 in company funds over the last 6 months to buy luxury watches and sports cars. Mr. Henson was aware of this. He was compiling the evidence to fire you after the wedding. Noel's face drained of blood. He stepped back, suddenly looking very small. Lauren snapped her head toward him, betrayal cutting through her shock. You stole from me. I didn't. They're lying, Lauren. Lawrence is just jealous. Noel sputtered, backing toward the door. We have forwarded the ledgers to the authorities, Ms. Vance said calmly, closing her briefcase. Good luck in bankruptcy court, Miss Sanchez. And Mr.
Cobb?
Try not to leave the state. The lawyers turned and walked out, leaving the boardroom in a suffocating silence. Lauren sat paralyzed, staring at the empty space where the legal team had been. The massive, crushing weight of what she had done finally crashed down on her. She hadn't just humiliated her husband. She had thrown away the god of wealth, who had single-handedly built her throne. And for what? For a 3-minute kiss with a parasitic secretary who was stealing from her. Lauren, Noel whispered, reaching out to touch her arm. We can fix this.
We
Can. Smack. The sound of Lauren's palm connecting with Noel's cheek echoed like a gunshot. Her ring cut his lip, sending a droplet of blood flying. Get out, she hissed, her voice shaking with a terrifying rage. Get out of my building before I kill you. Noel scowled, his charming facade dropping instantly.
He touched his bleeding
lip, his eyes turning venomous. Your building? You don't have a building anymore, you stupid bitch. You're broke. He turned and bolted out the door, leaving Lauren entirely alone in the collapsing ruins of her empire. A week later, the society pages were buzzing with 2 major events. The first was the spectacular, catastrophic implosion of Sanchez Enterprises. It was a bloodbath. Suppliers seized warehouses, banks locked the accounts, and the board of directors forced Lauren out without a golden parachute. Her luxury villa, her cars, her designer wardrobe, everything was frozen pending liquidation. The second event was the Sovereign Autumn Gala. It was the most exclusive art auction and high society gathering of the year, hosted by the elusive Henson family. It was rumored that the calligraphy master, LH, would be making a rare public appearance to auction off a masterpiece for charity. I stood on the mezzanine of the grand ballroom, swirling a glass of Macallan's 64, watching the titans of industry mingle below. I wore a bespoke midnight blue Tom Ford tuxedo, a vintage Patek Philippe resting comfortably on my wrist. I felt lighter. The suffocating weight of playing the subservient partner for 5 years was entirely gone. Sir, Victor murmured, stepping up beside me. She is here. I raised an eyebrow. How did she get past the door? Her name was scrubbed from the registry. She pawned a diamond necklace to buy a scalped ticket from a lesser invitee. Victor explained, his tone laced with distaste. She's desperate. Rumor has it, she's trying to corner one of the Henson executives to beg for a grace period on her debts. I looked down at the floor. It didn't take long to spot her. Lauren stood near the ice sculpture, looking entirely out of place.
She was
wearing an old evening gown from 3 seasons ago. Her normally perfect hair was slightly frizzy, and the dark circles under her eyes couldn't be hidden by makeup. The arrogance that usually radiated from her was gone, replaced by a frantic, hunted energy. She was approaching various executives, but they all, politely and coldly, turned their backs on her. Word of the Henson family's wrath had spread. She was radioactive. Shall I have security remove her? Victor asked. No, I said softly, setting my glass down. Let her stay. It's time to end this. I walked down the grand sweeping staircase. The crowd naturally parted for me, a ripple of whispers following in my wake as people recognized the heir to the Henson throne. Lauren was in the middle of pleading with a mid-level banking executive when she turned and saw me. She froze. The champagne flute in her hand trembled, spilling a few drops onto the marble floor. She stared at me, taking in the immaculate tuxedo, the posture, the absolute aura of authority that I no longer needed to hide. For a split second, her brain couldn't process it. The man she had kicked out into the freezing snow, the man she had mocked for being a poor freeloader, was standing before her looking like royalty. Lawrence, she breathed, stepping toward me. Her eyes darted frantically
around.
Lawrence, what are you doing here? How did you get in? You shouldn't be wearing that. Even now, deep in her delusion, a part of her still thought I was playing dress up. I didn't smile. I didn't scowl. I simply looked at her with the polite, empty gaze one might give a stranger on the subway. Miss Sanchez, I said. My voice carried, slicing through the ambient noise of the room. Several guests turned to watch. Lawrence, stop it, she whispered frantically, reaching out to grab my sleeve. I know you're mad. I know I went too far at the wedding, but you have to stop this joke. The lawyers, the bank, tell them it's a mistake. Tell them to give me my company back. We can sign the papers tomorrow. I'll fire Noel. I'll even apologize. Just please. She was begging, but there was no love in her eyes. Only terror for her bank account. I took a deliberate step back, out of her reach. You seem confused, Miss Sanchez, I said smoothly. There is no mistake.
And
There is certainly no wedding. As for your company, it was never yours. You were merely the figurehead riding on my family's capital. That's a lie, she shrieked, her voice cracking, drawing the attention of the entire ballroom. The music halted. Hundreds of eyes locked onto us. I worked 18-hour days. I bled for that company. You just sat at home, writing your stupid calligraphy. A low, collective gasp echoed through the room. Several elite art collectors looked at Lauren as if she had just desecrated a church. Elias, who had been orchestrating the auction on stage, stepped down to the microphone. His voice thundered through the speakers. Security, remove this woman from the premises. She is causing a disturbance in the presence of Mr. Henson, and she has insulted the guest of honor, Master.
LH.
Lauren spun around, staring at Elias, then back at me. Master LH? The banking executive she had been speaking to earlier leaned in and sneered at her. Are you blind, or just incredibly stupid? LH stands for Lawrence Henson. You are screaming at the greatest living artist of our generation and the owner of the very building you're standing in. Lauren's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The blood completely drained from her face. Her legs buckled under her, and she dropped to her knees right there, on the pristine marble. Lawrence, she choked out, tears finally spilling over her lashes, ruining her makeup.
Lawrence, I'm sorry.
I was blind. I was arrogant. Please, I love
You.
Remember the winter you bought me that scarf? Remember when we ate instant noodles in our first apartment? You can't just throw away 5 years. I looked down at her. The sight of her kneeling, weeping, begging, it didn't bring me joy. It didn't bring me pain either. It just felt like sweeping up
Dust.
I didn't throw it away, Lauren, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, but clear enough for her to hear. I bought the ring. I prepared the betrothal.
I
Was ready to give you the world, but you wanted me to be a dog. I leaned in slightly. And now, I'm simply putting you out in the cold. I turned my back on her and walked toward the VIP viewing room. 2 massive security guards flanked Lauren. They grabbed her by the arms, dragging her across the floor as she screamed my name, sobbing hysterically. Her cries echoed off the vaulted ceiling, a pathetic, haunting sound that faded as the heavy oak doors shut behind her. The string quartet resumed playing. The guests went back to their champagne, buzzing with the fresh gossip. Winter arrived in full force a month later. I was sitting in the back of my Maybach, reading a quarterly financial report as the car glided silently through the snow-slicked streets of the city. Sir, my driver said softly, glancing at the rearview mirror. Should I take a detour? There's a disturbance near the intersection. I looked up. We were stopped at a red light near the crumbling outskirts of the commercial district. Outside, the snow was falling heavily, coating the sidewalks in a thick blanket of white. Near a bus stop, 2 figures were arguing loudly. It was Noel and Lauren. Lauren looked gaunt, wrapped in a thin, cheap trench coat, shivering violently against the wind. Noel was shouting at her, holding a duffel bag tightly against his chest. I'm not giving you a dime, Noel yelled, his voice cutting through the muffled snow. The cops are looking for me because of you. I have to leave the city. You ruined my life. Lauren screamed back, lunging at him with clawed hands. You stole my money. Give it back. Noel shoved her hard. Lauren lost her footing on the ice and crashed to the ground, scraping her hands raw on the frozen pavement. You ruined your own life, you arrogant hag. Noel spat, looking down at her with pure disgust. You threw away a billionaire because you wanted to feel powerful. You're pathetic. He turned and ran down the alleyway, disappearing into the dark. Lauren didn't get up. She sat on the freezing sidewalk, the snow accumulating on her hair and shoulders. She hugged her knees to her chest, sobbing into the bitter wind. She had no Canada Goose parka. She had no company. She had no one. She looked up, her red, tear-streaked eyes scanning the traffic. For a brief second, her gaze locked onto the tinted windows of the Maybach. She couldn't see me through the darkened glass, but I saw her. I saw the exact moment the cold truly set into her bones. Sir? The driver asked again. Shall we proceed? I looked away, returning my eyes to the financial report in my hands.
The
Numbers were clean, perfect, and infinitely more interesting.
Drive, I said.
The Maybach pulled away, leaving her in the rearview mirror, swallowed entirely by the snow, until there was nothing left of her at all.